started. Small crowd Friday. I'm not surprised. But this will be recorded. Sounds like Tyler's doing it. I got a backup on my own system as well, recording, just in case anything happens to his. So all y'all will be able to catch up with this. So yeah, I got a lot to talk about. You know, a lot that I can't talk about because of NDAs and stuff like that. But there is a lot I can talk about, and there's a lot of great things happening. I called this particular quarterly the Battle of Midway, major pivot point and turning point in the war. And I foresee a similar scenario here. We're at a major pivot point, major turning point. Well, not only a few individual companies, but as a whole. Because this all started with SDRC in 2019. It's the one that started it all. It's the one that's held by the most. And it's the one that all my big money connections alone have watched all these years to see proof of concept. This going to the next level, SDRC, will change everything. It will lead to mass amounts of funding, and I'm talking on all the projects, because it's validation of what we've been doing for these last 5 years. Okay? And that's a big deal to a lot of people that are watching me, because I got hundreds of people watching me that are not involved in anything yet. A lot of big money, you know, like institutions, small firms, stuff like that I've been speaking to for years on all these things. And a lot of them are waiting to see something like that succeed. So it's going to be game changing. And I'm calling SDRC today in particular the pivot into greatness. Their turning point is the turning point into greatness, because it's not just a miner entering production, the 1 in 5,000. It goes beyond that. You know, even the ones that make it there, most of them are drowning in debt and are years away from actually like a break even, where it can even, you know, the shareholders can even make anything out of it. SDRC is in a completely different boat, and it's what we've been doing and why it's, you know, a critical proof of concept. We've kept SDRC clean the whole time. You know, very low debt, always higher cash and asset to debt ratio, very rare for the OTC and even rarer for mining companies. We're doing that on every single project. And the result of that is going to be cataclysmic in a great way, because the short position on this, number one, that's where they get a lot of their covers from. You know, when these things do go into dollars, right? A lot of the beatdown after a stock gets up there is from conversions and debt and those parties recuperating their funds. It's not going to happen on SDRC. It's going to be pretty special. But going back to kind of the details, I guess, what's been done in Q3, obviously the massive expansion, 1,900 acres. You know, once again, they wouldn't do that. And Steve was a big part of that process from RBMC. He helped, made sure that process went smooth and correct. They wouldn't do this, and they didn't do this unless they have it figured out, unless they're incredibly confident in what's going on, and, you know, that are going to be here for a very long time. And they expect this to be incredibly successful. It's not, you know, when that happened, most should have known when that happened that they had obviously figured something out, that they were very bullish on everything they were seeing, right? Looking over Q3 for SDRC and where money came in. Once again, always just doing it perfect. You know, it looks like to me they raised about 350,000 of 400,000 range in Q3 privately, and they did it at 25 cents, restricted shares, and that's not much lower than the market, guys. Like, we were just 25 to 30 cents a couple weeks ago, not even that. So the fact that, you know, big money like that, 350K plus, is coming in at 25 cents, and they aren't even allowed to possibly look at selling this shit for 2 years. That should tell a lot of people the situation here. Once again, it's just, you put all these signs together and you're like, okay, there's obviously something incredibly special going on here. They had the big board of director edition yesterday, which kind of qualifies more for Q4. But just a titan and a big step towards what SDRC wants to become, which is a major company. You know, they want to not only become successful themselves, but they are planning to become so successful as a company that essentially they need someone like Jim, because Warren itself is probably going to blow up. The infrastructure of Warren and everything about it is going to be like a boom town, like a mining boom town is the way to put it. When you have that type of change in a very small community like that, it sends waves, right? It sends waves. Yeah, it's a modern day gold rush, and what SDRC is doing is they're smart too. You know, they're working with all the locals and hiring out all the locals and having them do all the equipment. And, you know, the furnace they just got done was done by a local. It's smart. It's smart, you know. In Q3, they moved from 2.5 tons per day to 5 tons per day. So we already are seeing that escalation in how much they're able to produce. I think MC's brought it up, but, you know, and I think Sean's brought it up as well, but the longer term goal, which I wouldn't even consider that long term, you know, they're already finalizing designs and plans for a larger mill. It's going to be about the money, which from my understanding is going incredibly well. So I don't expect money to be an issue whatsoever. But the designs to finalize a much larger mill are already being completed. And if we're on track for 100 ton per day capacity, like SDRC's goal has been, that's when we're really looking at just insane numbers. Like, you know, MC's done a great job of breaking those down for everybody, but that's when, you know, we're talking 2 billion in revenue is when we get up to that 100 ton per day mark, right? And that's where the $20 per share numbers come from, okay? Is those statistics done out. And they're steadily heading in that direction, okay? They've successfully separated 4 out of the 8 precious metals. I'd have to look at London MC. I'm not sure. London, you know, some of the people in iHub hate on it, but it is a great comparable. Look at London MC. I'm not sure, but I like using London as a comparable because those numbers are very similar. The amount of ounces they're producing is similar to what SDRC could obtain very short term. And also London's all-in sustaining cost is very similar to where I foresee SDRC falling into. It is in their range. And once again, guys, they're I'd have to double check, but they're in the billions for valuation. London is, once again. And I think SDRC, the way they're progressing production-wise, I think they could reach where London is pretty quickly in terms of ounces produced. A lot of it because Sydney's grade is so high, they have to run through a lot less rock ore to get the gold that many other companies have to get. But yeah, they successfully separated 4 out of the 8 precious metals. If I had to wager a guess, they're having the other ones they haven't been able to nail down yet are the heavier ones like osmium and iridium. But at the same time, I don't know how concerned they are about it. My concerns on those are low because while those metals have value to them, osmium and iridium and stuff like that, there is value there. The demand and need for those metals is low. So me in particular, I've never cared too much about that stuff. What matters to me is, can SDRC separate the gold, separate the silver, separate the platinum and the palladium? That's where the demand is. That's where the increased demand will be. I'm not saying there won't be increased demand in iridium and osmium. I have no fucking clue. Maybe there will be. But I do know there is going to be incredibly high increased demand for the other 4 things. And it's the 4 that they have figured out. So to me, that's the most important. They figured out the 4 ones that I believe hold the most value and will create the most value for years to come. They are bringing in the bigger furnace to get the other metals out. So that will be interesting. And, I'm sure they know a lot more than I do about where they can sell osmium and iridium. It's a little bit out of my scope. But yeah, guys, I love Q3. They're looking into the meteorite stuff too, working with University of Fairbanks out of Alaska. I think that's really cool. Very similar to what BYRG's done, BRGC's done, working with the universities. So what did you say, MC? 4,600 tons on an average per day throughout. Oh man. So they're running a lot of material. I'd be curious though. I'd have to look at the actual... Okay. That must be because their grade must be low. Yeah. Average mill head grade. Yeah. Open pit. That's why. Well, their mill grade is just, it's not low, but it's just 10 grams is nothing compared to the SDRC's fucking 6 ounces, 8 ounces. That's what it is. But that's still cool though. That's still cool. What it comes down to, MC with London, is I wouldn't necessarily look at the tons per day they're running through, but ounces produced per year. Ounces of gold produced per year. That's the metric that really matters. And on that metric, I foresee SDRC catching up to that pretty quickly. Especially with the plans ahead, the money that is rolling in that I've heard of, and it's don't bet against this one, guys. It's the next GWSO. It's bigger than GWSO. It's GWSO on steroids. Like I'm telling y'all, it's a few OTCs have gone to big boards like PPTA. AMLI, Monster, Netflix, I believe, started on OTC. This is an example of something that doesn't ever happen. So don't screw it up, is what I tell people now. I've had people go on site. Government officials have gone on site. It's all there. It's all real. It's happening. Big money is paying attention to this now. Big money is flowing into this privately. Don't get lost in the sauce. Ignore the noise. You ever have any questions, just ask Sean or Dan. They'll tell you straight up. But that PR yesterday should be just the first PR of a long streak to come. We should be hearing about the acquisition that has been talked about for the 60 days. I think many have already put 2 and 2 together on what it probably is, and I agree with that assumption. Years ago in 2019, this company, when we started out, we wanted to be acquired or bought out by a neighbor. And now it's the other way around is what's happening. Everybody around SDRC now wants to be bought out or acquired. Back in the day, in 2019, 2020, we were just hoping somebody would do that to SDRC around us, and now it's changed completely. SDRC's taken over Warren, taken over everything in that area. So I expect we hear something on that, and that should be pretty big, because if it is an acquisition, especially a neighbor, it's going to add, obviously, depending on what it is, a lot more value. It'll be interesting. And I know a lot of the neighbors nearby have piles that are significantly larger than what SDRC already has. So that's going to be interesting, guys, because what SDRC has now is essentially the recipe, right? They have the metallurgy down to figure out what all their neighbors probably don't know or can't figure out. So another big value addition there. But any questions on SDRC, please feel free to ask. Wild is not here. For any of those that are curious, Wild's not here. He has a doctor's appointment, so didn't want to pressure him into making it. But yeah, any questions on SDRC, feel free to ask, please. See, and that's the thing, Kippen. People stress over the dividend way too much about whether it happens in Q4 or Q1, right? Like Wild and I have said, and I think a lot of the bigger money that have been around for a while already know, like, I don't personally care whether it happens in Q4 or Q1 because I know it's going to be a repetitive occurrence. I know so much money is going to be flowing into this company that it will be a quarterly thing or it will be a semi-annual or annual thing depending on how they do it. But I totally foresee dividends to be a regular thing here, and I am 120% confident dividends do happen. For those wanting it in Q4 versus Q1, all I would say is you're in the wrong place and have more patience then, because it's just not how it works, you know. Probably Q1, Ron, if I had to wager. If I had to guess, I would say Q1, Ron. But I do, if they wanted to sell product tomorrow, they could. If they wanted revenue tomorrow, they could. But they don't need it, is a big thing I'll say. They have a ton of money right now backing them, and they don't need revenue right at this second. So I think they're kind of planning out how they want to go about all this. These next few months are going to be pretty crazy. So, any other questions, feel free. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. You guys got to remember, a lot of big money, right? What I'm kind of referring to, just like they're always watching me, they're always watching SDRC, right? A lot of big money was sitting on the sidelines privately, waiting and watching to see if SDRC could figure out how to separate the gold. When that happened, everything changed. Okay? And that's all I'll say on that. Yes, it does. It does, Ron. It does, and that will just be the start, because eventually they'll be doing auditing, and they'll be doing SEC reporting, and that's why I'm saying we're such early stage, guys. Don't get lost in the bullshit and noise. We're such in an early stage. This thing's not SEC reporting yet. It's not audit yet. They haven't posted revs yet. This is early stage. A lot of the big money that is watching this thing won't touch it until it's over one. A lot of the shorting brokerages out there and hedge funds that do OTCs, they won't start covering their largest positions until it's over one. So we're in the early stages here, early stages, and with the way everything's going, this is probably going to be a NASDAQ stock one day soon. So, much love to everybody. It's going to change this Discord. It's going to completely change the whole Discord, because the money flow to all the projects is going to be like night and day. Yeah, Tyler, I don't know those details. I honestly don't know, but if I had to wager, it's probably Sean's a smart guy. He's smarter than me. He's really good at this shit, especially the numbers and making the deals and stuff. He's incredible. Whatever he has planned and whatever he's doing it, however he's doing it, I know it's smart, and I know it's going to be killer, because the guy, he's a beast. The guy is a fucking beast. If I could make him a CEO on every project, I would, because this guy makes it happen. And now that the gold's separated, he's really making it happen. I don't know. I think that's really short-term perspective, Cordero, because that's already happening. Maybe you don't see it, but it's already happening, brother. Like, the amount of money that's flowing into this thing right now, you'll see. Yes, over and over again, Shannon. Yep. Chef Curry's another one that's good with the numbers. Yeah, max power, and it's not even that, man. I don't even think we'll ever have another SDRC. It's because the grades and everything are just so fucking insane. I mean, just geologically, we'll probably never find another SDRC. It's very unlikely, just from a geological level, to find something like this. What will be the same is the systems, right? The system of how we start from nothing and become something. That is what will be the same across all the projects. I do in a way see XTPT on the antimony level as similar to SDRC with grades. Like geological significance, I guess is the best way to put it. The insanity of it, the consistency of it. I would see XTPT as similar on that kind of level. But the same systems that have been put into place on SDRC are already put into place on all the projects. We replicate a very similar system across all, keeping debts low to nothing, keeping assets always at a much higher ratio, doing things right, private funding. That's the big thing, guys. Most OTCs are shit because they don't do it that way. They take on notes, debt, and backdoor deals, right? All these companies will continue to succeed and do well as long as progress happens and the funding that happens on all of them remains clean, the way we've always done it on SDRC. Private funders, restricted shares. They do well. That's the thing, Ron. That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with dilution. There really isn't. It's all about how it's done, because every startup will dilute and has to dilute to grow. It's all about how that dilution is spent, because SDRC has, I don't want to say significant, but much more shares than they had in 2019. But you don't feel that because it has been used for growth. Most dilution in the OTCs is horrible because it's used to line the pockets of insiders. It doesn't go towards the asset, the project, the stock, right? It most of the time it just goes towards dumping it down. Yes. I'm not sure, Tyler. I'm not sure. You can ask Dan. Honestly, that's what's great about Dan, guys, and that's why I've always loved SDRC since the beginning. I'm a veteran. The military and was very important to me. And Dan was a combat engineer in the military. And then he was in the police force, worked his way up to captain. And I immediately got a very strong sense of integrity and wanting to do things right. Even if you got an offer that would benefit himself, he wouldn't take it if it hurt everybody else. That's what the sense I've always gotten from Dan. And that's why I know SDRC is always going to be a winner, man, because they have integrity and they care about everybody involved. What I mean by that, I guess, long story short, Tyler, is Dan will always answer you, man. That's what's great. You got a question? Hey, Dan, what's up, man? Well, you were down in that tunnel recently. You guys, he'll hit you up. He'll tell you, man. He's a really laid back guy. I met him in New Mexico not long ago. Him and Gabe spent some time with them out there. They're good people, man. I don't care, I guess, Ron. But it all depends on the terms, right? MC's probably right. If they do what they're going to say, and at this point I'm very certain that's going to happen, it's a very high likelihood they will get a lot of pressure into a buyout. From who, I don't know, but there's a lot of companies out there doing these things right now, M&A, and there's a lot of companies out there that are looking to lower their all-in sustaining costs. And like I've said, SDRC is like a super attractive target and a super attractive way for a company to lower their overall all-in sustaining cost very quickly. And that is a big, that's a big buy sell kind of thing for a company like Newmont. It's very attractive. So yeah, it all depends on the terms, right, Ron? But what's great is Sean knows what it's worth. He has already stated he wouldn't take anything less than 4. He's told me that. He's told me this thing's worth billions. They know what it's worth. So nobody like Newmont is going to come in here, throw a 700 mil price tag and get it accepted, because they all know that it's worth billions. They all know that. And they're all uber confident in that. So yeah, I'll probably yeah, I don't know, Tyler. Wild might know a little bit too. He was there recently. Wild's been out there twice in the last month or so. Wild Trades, he's gone out to the site 2 times, spent some time with them, looked at the piles and everything they're doing. Very impressed, and like I told you guys, last time when Steve went out there last trip, he was so impressed that he was the one that invested another $100,000 privately after his trip, because he was so impressed by everything he saw. He threw another 100K at this thing, and once again, it's restricted for 2 years. So just to exude that confidence of everything going on. And that's the thing, MC, and that's easy money with the recipe figured out. Essentially, yeah. Because they don't have to mine any of that out. It's just $2 billion sitting there with the recipe now. The hard part and the roadblock was the metallurgy. Now that that's figured out, it's literally money just sitting there. We're lucky. There are a lot of companies out there. I can think of one in particular, actually. HYMC, Highcroft. I've gotten my ass handed to me on that company. I have a lot of huge winners, but when you bet big, you also have huge losers. Highcroft is an example of metallurgy issues on a company, right? I don't know all the details. It's been a while since I've read into it, but they had those issues. They had metallurgy issues for years, and it led to low grade, low output, high cost, right? And that's why Highcroft always kind of struggled. We're lucky that SDRC nailed their stuff down very quickly. Sometimes it does take companies years. Every company's different. Every ore is different. We're lucky that Guy Seiko was there to figure it out. And that's the thing with Mike Irish. He was brought in. The way I look at Mike Irish, right? I don't care what your title is or what your degree is. That's never mattered to me at all with anybody that comes in on any of these companies. All I care about is, do you know what you're doing, and can you get the job done? Can you do it efficiently? Because degrees have never meant shit to me. You know, I want to see a hard worker. I want to see someone that shows up, gets the job done, works well with people. The rest doesn't matter to me, okay? In my opinion, Guy Seiko was the perfect person for that. Mike Irish couldn't figure it out, and he didn't have the desire to really figure it out. So we're lucky to have Guy Seiko. The guy showed up every day, and he worked his ass off until he figured it out. And he did what Mike Irish didn't have the motivation to do. And Sean's always been great about constructing all his deals. Everybody he gets involved, he can separate from if they are not doing their services. And he's always done a great job with that. Just like with Cameron a couple years ago. What was Cameron brought in for? Once again, a guy with tons of degrees, great titles. He was in Forbes magazine, some bullshit like that. And he came in saying he could raise this and that and a bunch of money, and the guy couldn't raise $1. So what happened? He got the boot. You know, he didn't do his job. Fuck, I don't give a fuck how many degrees he has or if he was in Forbes magazine. He says he can raise money. That's what he's good at. That was the job he's brought in to do. Well, you failed at your job, bro. You're not as good as you say you are. So you don't get any shares. Bye, see you later. That's business. Same thing. You get brought in to do metallurgy. You can't figure it out. You're not really motivated to figure out. Well, bye, bro. Here's, I'll get my shares back and find someone who can. And that's business, so you gotta cut the emotions out on some of those things that you see happen, I guess, and get down to what the actual facts are and the nitty gritty details, not just, oh man, they replaced the guy doing the metallurgy. Oh, they didn't replace him because of the metallurgy. They replaced him because he couldn't figure it out. He didn't want to figure it out, But yeah, any other questions on SDRC, guys? Shoot, like I said, this is should be the first PR of many to come. We're going to figure out what this acquisition is here very shortly. And then I know there are a ton, like Sean has stated, there's a lot of lab reports that have been held back, a lot of third-party reports that have been held back for this acquisition that will be coming out. So we're going to have a lot of PRs because a lot of information has been held back due to this PR. So it should be a very exciting few months ahead at the very least. And then we'll only build from there. I'm hoping we see not only several third-party lab results, but maybe a new evaluation like we've gotten in the past, because usually new lab averages, new lab results that will equate to some sort of new evaluation like Sean did in the past, where The averages equated out. Yeah, FC will do one for him. But yeah, I'm sure that will come too, and production should be right around. Well, production is happening, but revenue should be right around the corner. So yeah, guys. Any other questions? I'm gonna move on to BYRG because I already took a lot of time on this. I'm only supposed to be here for an hour. How much of SDRC's worth is attached to management? I mean, it's all insider owned, Ron. Like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, it's all owned by the shareholders. It's all owned by the shareholders. It's all owned by the management. There's no, that's why I love it, man. The Leylands own a lot. I mean, it's all in the filings, Leylands own a lot, and that's because the Leylands are the ones that had the original Lucky Ben that SDRC got Lucky Ben from, and Greg and Sue, they're the ones that really, they have a lot of shares as well, and that's the chairman, and they've both been around on SDRC forever. They're the ones that, with Dan, pretty much kept the company afloat until Sean came in. I mean, their current market cap. You mean privately? I don't know what you mean, really, man. The money that's coming in privately is coming in at 25 cents right now. Ugh. Yeah, I think that's the thing, Tyler. They can. I know they could sell stuff right now. I think Sean is going about it a certain strategic way, and we'll all see what that is. Yeah, they all have skin in the game, definitely, and a lot of them, like Sean and Dan, they've put in a lot of their own cash into this thing to keep it going. And I've met just about everybody on the company too, in person, shook their hand, great people. All right, guys, I'm gonna move on to BYRG because it's quiet, it's beaten down, but a lot of great things are happening there. And even though it looks like shit, things are actually still better than ever. It only looks like shit because of BNY. So I'll start there. The stock looks like shit because of BNY. BNY's been selling off their last shares. They stopped currently. That's why it's kind of just floating in space. I don't think they're selling right now. They shouldn't be. We are currently in talks with trying to do a deal with BNY to buy it all out at once and clear that wall. We're very close. I'm a part of it. We'll see. I'm crossing my fingers, but BNY shouldn't be selling right now, and the reason is because we are trying to come to terms and agreement on buying out what remains, which is 552 million shares of BYRG is what is left. 552 million shares. But like I said, that's not being sold right now. The stock is just sitting here because we're trying to come to terms with BNY. Once that is done, that's the last thing. That's the last thing. I call for this meeting. I called BYRG, just like I called SDRC the pivot into greatness. I'm calling BYRG the pivot from the dark. And what I mean by that is 2024, a lot of 2024 was spent cleaning up BYRG, right? All the OTC skeleton closet in the closet, right? We got rid of all the bad players. We got rid of the Doc, who had over 1 billion shares. He was the reason we had to disclose the 10% owner being a felon and all that crap. We don't have to do that on BYRG anymore. Doc is gone. He got wiped. any insider that pretty much had a block of shares that was deemed not a good person to have around is gone. Alpine's gone. Scottsdale's gone. Everybody's gone. The only one left is BNY. Once BNY is agreed to and cleared, I expect nothing but a natural runway forward on BYRG. So it's truly going to be a pivot out of the darkness if we get these terms agreed upon. Especially because everything, like I said, on BYRG is better than ever. Everything's great. The whole team is working well, you know, and that's what I love, right? We started out with just Dave. Once again, we're slowly, steadily growing this thing. Justin's been killing it. Michael's been killing it, the head of ESG. Grant's involved in all the filings now. You should see his name on the most recent one. They're bringing in private funds, doing everything right. A few people here have done some private funding on BYRG. A lot of it's come from myself as well. So doing it right, just like SDRC always has. 2-year restricted, and we're progressing the project forward one step at a time, right? But we're really looking for, I guess, in 2025, the next big steps, right, on the asset side. The two things we're looking at are the Joker mine and the IP, okay? It's going to be probably a simultaneous effort. We do see possibilities in either draining the Joker or doing some sort of other technology to go further explore the tunnel. We'll see. But the main thing for 2025 will be the IP test. The IP test directly over the new Rambler area and ore body will give us the pinpointed area to punch some drills and figure out exactly what is going on here geologically, because a lot of what is going on in BYRG is still very confusing and very much a mystery. Not in a bad way, it's just there's a lot going on here geologically. It's always been a tough one to decipher. We think a lot of it has to do with possibly these things like SDRC. The conclusion we're starting to maybe come to is that it is like SDRC in the way that it's very narrow vein systems, very, very narrow vein PGM systems that don't respond well geologically to fire assays, and they don't necessarily respond well to drilling, because SDRC drilling and fire assays have never been something that works very well on the ore itself, on the geology of the area. It doesn't receive good feedback on results. It doesn't work well. It's been much more of like you need to directly hit on the vein, pull from the vein, and those are your results. So we're taking two approaches. The Joker would be a big part of that because it's so worked, we foresee that it could be a significant tunnel under there, right? If that is drained and can be accessed, it will be much easier geologically to figure out what they were doing back in the 1900s at the New Rambler. What were they pulling from? How were they doing it? And we should be able to get direct eyes on the vein they were pulling from, because obviously whatever they were doing at the Joker is right next to the New Rambler, and it was pretty significant. They built the house on top of it. The woodwork they did all the way down, this wasn't a small thing. There was a lot of money and time put into this. So they were pulling something of value out. So what we really come down to is we can drill, yes, and that is the plan, because we have to drill just to try at least once. But we will not be surprised if we run into similar systems like we have seen on SDRC, where we will have to more get directly underground, eyes on this vein to figure out what is really going on. That might be what happens. And that's why we want to go about this simultaneously. Both being able to get into the Joker to see directly what they were doing, how they were doing it, and what they were pulling out. And drilling, we will see. The IP test will help a lot. What was good about the Aeromag is it showed the ore body exists. It's definitely there. The magnetics on it were fucking nuts, right? That was great news on BYRG. We all, trust me and a lot of the big investors that understand that stuff at least, we all breathed a big sigh of relief when we saw those Aeromag results. Because it showed big pink ore body, huge magnetic signature. That was the ore body that they were pulling from in the 1900s, for sure. We're very confident in that. And because of how close the Joker is to it, we're hoping maybe that will be a key into the insight of this whole area, everything they were doing there back in the day. Because geologically, this is a complex, mysterious area. It has the perfect name, Shambhala. It really does. On the flip side of things, I'll see what I can talk about, but a lot of BYRG has been held up by private funding, like myself and others in here, right? But I do have some good news. Justin and Michael have been killing it. I did hear that they're starting to make headway towards getting some grants and backing from the school to start paying for things like labs and Justin's work and geology work in return for results and research and sharing product with the schools and having the students come over. Like you guys saw, BYRG had started it last year a little bit with the intern. They spoke about it on the shareholder meeting a few months ago. Michael, Justin, and Dave, they've all been working really hard on getting backing from the school and Wyoming Geological Survey and working with these different entities to try to get funding support. And I will say that that is going also incredibly well on BYRG. With big thanks to Justin in particular. He's been an incredible geologist on making that happen. So I will say BYRG has done a great job of getting close to the university and getting backing from them. I expect to see even more interns and students out there in 2025. And I think that's really badass. And we'll be getting a lot of free research out of it, I'm sure. That would normally cost us a lot of money. But back to BNY, guys. Basically, once that hurdle is cleared, everything should open up on BYRG, not just in terms of stock, but the reason it's quiet is because we're trying to get BNY figured out. You know, you can ask Dave, he'll tell you we're quiet because we're trying to get BNY figured out. There's no reason to waste updates. Like anything we do right now just gives BNY a reason to fuck with us. So we're just in haggle mode. We're in chill mode right now, but everything on the asset side is continuing. Nothing has slowed down whatsoever. 2025 is already being planned out. The permitting is still in, which we should be getting another update on soon. And the stock itself, once BNY gets figured out, the stock opening up is going to change a lot. It's going to make everything a hell of a lot easier on BYRG. We should also be getting another share cancellation end of year. Dave has always kept his word on that. So I suspect we see another significant share cancellation sometime in the end of 2024, early 2025. With grants starting to get involved in the filings, we did have discussions that, you know, we really want to start elevating the quarterlies on BYRG. We're at that stage now where we can start to elevate the filings. And what I mean by that is do it like SDRC does, essentially, where it's a very in-depth, each quarterly has a very in-depth report of broken down chunk by chunk of everything that happened throughout that quarter, whether it be metallurgy, expansion, funding, whatever it is. We should, in 2025, start to see BYRG work in that direction of becoming a much more detailed and professional looking filings. It's going to be good times ahead. All a part of the growth, now that BYRG is starting to do everything it's doing on a regular basis, the team is growing, stuff is happening on a daily basis, schools getting involved, starting to help back us. It's about time that BYRG starts doing more in-depth filings, more detailed stuff, and really showing off all the work that they're doing, because guys, a lot is happening that people don't see, and it's all great stuff, stuff that BYRG needs to show off. So we had that discussion, Grant, Dave, and I, and BYRG is going to start really sharing all these great things similar to how SDRC does in their filings. That's a big improvement we're looking at in 2025. Yeah, Hawkeye, that cancel will happen. He always sticks to his word on that. I don't think I'm forgetting anything else on BY. Any questions, guys? Because I know BYRG has been a headache for many. So please, any questions, please ask. There is a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of updates that will be coming. They're just being held back because of the BNY situation. So it should be, once that's cleared, which we're hoping is a very short-term thing, should be exciting times ahead there, pretty near term, if that gets settled. But yeah, any questions on BYRG, go ahead and shoot. $552 million, but they aren't selling right now. That's why it's just sitting. But don't push it up either. Like, don't waste your money is what I'm telling people, because they'll turn it back on again. Like, we're in haggling mode with them. That's a tough one, MC. The permitting is in for it, right? That's the main thing. So the permitting is in for it. We can't do it yet, even if we wanted to. When the permitting gets approved, MC, we're still probably going to do that, yeah, just for research purposes. If I'm a betting man, and I've had a lot of meetings with Justin, when I look at the Aeromag, okay, and where Shambhala lies on the Aeromag, and once again, what's great is the IP test will help with this a lot too, because it will essentially be a way more detailed image of the Aeromag. I think that Shambhala lies in the shear zone, MC. I think it lies directly in the middle of the transition shear zone of the deposit. And what that means is, I think that they punched Shambhala north to see if the deposit continued up there, to see where that shear zone was. And I don't know if anything's up there. Depends on which way the tunnel goes, I guess. But north, I don't think there's anything up there. I think the whole deposit is south, which isn't a bad thing. It's just part of figuring out where everything lies. But based off the Aeromag, I personally think Shambhala lies directly in the middle of that shear zone, which isn't a bad thing, because if we drill a hole down into it, essentially confirm, because we can confirm, Justin's able to geologically through assays and stuff, we can figure out if that is the shear zone, and that would be helpful to know. because then we would know for sure, okay, this is like the edge of where this ore body lies, essentially. Yeah, Ascended Tyler, especially with everything going on with Sibanye in Montana. From my understanding, the Montana platinum palladium mine is shutting down, which is also obviously big news for SDRC. You know, they're very close to producing actual PGMs. But yeah, I trust me, I have messaged Rick Rule, Tyler, multiple times, brother, multiple times. I will say he's never responded to me, but he does read every single one of my messages because he has the shit turned on where you can see if he reads your shit or not. While he hasn't responded to me, he does read everything I send him. I've definitely sent him a couple of other things. Yeah. Yeah, and see, it would be very interesting, but I think that will be more, if I am wagering, I think the more value there will be for geological purposes, not necessarily where the actual money is. I have a feeling the Joker could actually be part of what matters, what is actually going on over there. I think Shambhala might 71. I guess I'll be more specific. I think 71 might have been, like I said, a test tunnel into the shear zone to see whether the deposit continues or not. That's my wager. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. I think Joker, I think there's something down there. There's no fucking way that they did all that and they weren't pulling something really good out. Not in that environment, not in that snow, not in that horrible, horrible area to mine. Not when they could go to a lot of other areas in America. A lot easier to get gold and PGMs and stuff, whatever, and pull it out. They were pulling out something good there. Whether it was copper or gold, we'll figure it out. But because of where the Joker lies, the way the Aeromag looks, I do think that might be the key to figuring out more. The video was nice because it couldn't see much, but we were able to see enough that there's obviously a very large tunnel down there. How far it travels, I don't know. I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers that bitch travels to some sort of connecting tunnel to the original complex. Maybe the Joker was part of the original complex. God knows. That's what's cool about all this. That's why I like BYRG. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones type investment while also being a mining investment. It's like, it's not like other projects where there's enough historical documentation out there to piece everything together. On the new Rambler, so much of it was lost. It's such a mystery still. So it makes it this very much this Indiana Jones type. What do we find? What's going on down there? Do we find like old mining relics? Do we find a huge pile of ore that was left down there? What happens, you know? Because it's evident that nobody has been down here in 100+ years, you know? So it will be interesting. But yeah, any questions, guys? I'm gonna move on. I'm already taking too long with damn thing. Start the ramble and I get lost. Yeah, that would be nice, Tyler. I talk to so many people on LinkedIn, though. I talk to many Rick Rule types, I guess is the best way to put it. A lot of people are watching, but a lot of people are skeptical, and I don't blame them. You know, I don't expect big money to not be skeptical like how Don Durrett was, right? Because we're introducing a very unconventional model that goes against what a lot of people have been investing in and taught for like the last 20, 30 years. But my argument to those people all the time is the model is flawed. Your whole model is flawed. Everything y'all have been doing the last 20, 30 years is fucked. It's been flawed since the start. And this is why America is in the hole that it's in with all these metals, like antimony, big example. Why are we in the hole we are? Because we haven't kicked up a mine, period. We never kick-started anything. Perpetua has been in permitting for 22 years, 24 years, something like that. Insane. If that was China, it would never happen, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying we got to be like China, but there's a middle. There's a middle that America needs to figure out. And people look at SDRC, some people look at it as wrong. I don't look at it as wrong at all. I see it as, and with a lot of these companies, I see it as exploiting a weakness in the system. I see it as being smarter than all the big money and big companies out there. What did Perpetua do wrong? They got themselves in their own hole, right? SDRC, they have moved as fast as they have because they had patented land and they didn't get themselves in the mix that a lot of these big companies get themselves into. Same thing with XTPT, right? There's a lot of patented pieces in there. They have a relationship with the owners, very similar to SDRC and the Leylands, right? A lot of these companies, they take the wrong road right off the bat. While some people think it's wrong, or I think it's unconventionally right, and it's going to be what really drives change in this country for minerals, because we can't keep doing it the way we have been doing it, because China will whoop our ass. We're going to end up being Europe, and we don't want to be Europe. Trust me, we don't want to be like Europe, where we have to literally import everything. You don't want to be like that. That's where we would head towards if we don't get those things fixed. And the biggest problem is timelines, permitting, funding, all these things. And why is that an issue? It's because everything has been flawed. Everything is created in America to take 15 to 20 years in the mining. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be 5 to 10 years. And a lot of it is these companies just going about it in the wrong. They know what the roadblock is, but they still go bullhead into it. Great. You got a lot of antimony. You got this massive deposit, like I've said there a million times with PPTA. Huge. Massive. Great. High grade. Whatever. Bingo. But it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Because you've been stuck for 22 years. Yeah, the system sucks, but you're diving headfirst into the system. So at a certain point, yeah, the system sucks. You can blame the system, but you should be blaming yourself too. It's bad business decisions. SDRC took it a very smart angle, and we're doing a very similar angle on all these companies because, in my opinion, the right way to do things in the mining system in America is actually the wrong way to do things, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying you skip permitting to do all that. You still do all that. You do all the permitting, you do the testing, you do the labs, you do enough to prove it's there. And instead of all the bullshit for the 15 years after, you just punch it. You enter revenue. You make it happen. And a lot of these companies, they have become lost not only in the system and the regulations and all this, but they've become lost in building resource versus producing revenue. They build resource and build resource. They drill, they prove, and they never actually produce anything. So, cool, that's the right system, and investors like that, big money likes that, but what ends up happening is they never get anywhere. So we're trying to change the whole system. is what I see. I really want to make a wave with all these companies and really show that we can do this in 5 years. You don't need 20 years to bring a mine online, you know? And SDRC, upon its success, will really just kickstart all that, because we're doing that on all of them. You know, XTPT too. We're moving incredibly fast. You know, look at where we are already on XTPT. I guarantee you we have PPTA shaking in their boots. I can tell, because everything is a big media thing with them. Always doing posts about how they're the only one, and this and that. I can tell we got them nervous. There's a lot of antimony companies out there watching us. I'll go ahead and move on to XTPT, I guess. I'm calling XTPT pivot into the spotlight. Okay? Because there's going to be a huge spotlight on XTPT here in the coming months, especially in 2025. I suspect we hear news soon on permitting for XTPT, which should be very basic. And I go back to this, you know, we planned this out strategically. The permitting is very basic. We expect it to take 30 to 60 days. Then the next key part after the permitting is inputted and approved would be the road work, okay? And once the road work is complete, which if you guys, you know, it's all out there, do your DD, read the 43-101, read the sampling mapping program put out by the QPs. All the information is there, okay? Once the permitting's in, which even the QP stated should be 30 to 60 days approval, okay? So I'm hoping we see that PR sometime soon, that permitting is in and proceeding forward. That's the next update I really expect out of XTPT. If we don't get petrographic results soon, that's the other thing I'll touch on, because those results should be around the corner as well. But once permitting is approved, the road as well, if you read those reports, should only take about 1 to 2 weeks max to put in. Once the road's in, boom, there's the piles. Okay, guys? That's the big thing, right? Read all the reports. These piles have been getting tested and tested. There's been multiple assays on them. Put 2 and 2 together. Mac has done the PR saying he's pushing to get these things produced. Okay? Once the road's in, those piles will then, all of them, be able to be more accurately tested. Because while all the labs we have currently, like on the 43-101 and on the mapping program and all the independent assays, while they're all incredible and high grade enough to be sold to prospective buyers, which we have spoken to many prospective buyers on XTPT for product, there's very high demand for ore itself. Like, people are desperate for it. As soon as that road's in, I'm very confident there's going to be people trying to get those piles out. A lot of it will come down to the testing. So all the testing we've done so far, right, are small weights. Like, weight is in kilograms, small amounts of kilograms. You guys can look at all the charts on all the assays and 43-101 so far. But that's normal in this stage, right? On all the tests we've done so far, very, very high grade for antimony. Very high grade. Higher grade than a lot of projects I've seen out there. And also decent silver, which is good to see as well. I always knew, the area was a silver producer ever before it was an antimony producer, so it made sense. It will certainly help with the economics of the project, especially long term, as obviously the antimony prices will correct. They will correct, just like lithium has. So when that happens, the silver will be nice to have. There are other options, Goliath, but the thing is like I've spoken about, a lot of these other projects are popping up. Their grade's not even high enough to meet the minimum threshold of the buyers that are out there with mills currently built. Okay, we've already had those discussions. Every buyer of that product that is on the market I've had a meeting with. I know the minimum thresholds that we need to meet on grade to get it out. And I know that a lot of the companies out there pumping this bullshit right now, they are nowhere close to it. So I'm just sitting here like, okay, cool, you guys are pumping your product, but nobody's ever, grade's not high enough. Nobody's ever going to buy it. But yeah, like for example, a lot of the buyers we've spoken to, they've spoken about a minimum threshold of 30% grade, which means you need to either have your ore at a very high grade right off the bat, or you need to have the ability to concentrate it. And to even be able to concentrate it to 30%, you need decent grade. And looking at these projects, I'm just like, that ain't happening. So while there are other options out there, Goliath, a lot of them are out of the United States, which I think is a big turnoff right now, because we're not looking for antimony deposits necessarily. That's not what is needed right now. What is needed is a domestic one, right? A domestic one, because China cut us off. And that's what makes XTPT so attractive, because the only current domestic one, their timeline to produce is 2028. And I have done my research. I've spoken to tons of people that are very, very in the industry, and they're very confident that they will never produce. I have heard that over and over again on PBTA. When I speak to many people about the 2028 timeline, they laugh and say, yeah, that's not happening. You're right. They're just telling investors that. That's what I hear all the time on the street, that even 2028 is not happening. So everything's going to start moving really fast in XTPT. Petrographic results will be big, because that will be another key report for potential buyers to look at. That will give insight into, I guess, how a lot of the separation techniques will be done on that ore. And that's what I mean too by a lot more testing will happen once the road's put in. They'll come in, and instead of, hand-sized amounts of weight of ore, they'll come in and take, a nice dump truck size of ore and test it rigorously through their mill to ensure they can get the antimony out at a grade that is adequate for them. So that's what I expect after the road is extensive testing on the piles. If they test well, bam, that's it, guys. If the piles test well, bam, XTPT is selling product. That's my bet. And my bet is that could happen in less than 6 months. And if that happens in less than 6 months, permit approved, road in, prospective buyers testing all the piles, good results, piles sold. That's pretty much the chain of events I'm looking for. And all that, I believe, is well on track to be completed within 6 months. Mac is quiet, but he works hard, guys. That's what I'm wagering on XTPT, and that's why it's quickly become my number 2. I see that one entering some form of revenue in the number 2 spot behind SDRC. If we can pull that off, enter revenue that quickly, we can, then Mac can obviously self-fund the whole project, no dilution. We build it from there. It will self-fund the drilling, it will self-fund the development and the mining of more piles. The redevelopment of the Errants, the redevelopment of the Antimony King. Because guys, I don't know if you looked at the table on some of the results. It's table 1, I believe, on the mapping and sampling results. But the Antimony King results in particular are fucking nuts. Like, I'm talking 30% plus grade. I think one of them was like 330,000 ppms, something insane like that, 33%. And I think that same one had like 150 to 200 ppm silver. So the Antimony King really got something special going on over there. And these are third party, very reputable lab results that are showing these things. So pretty excited. And we are also a lot more attractive too, I will say, than Goliath than a lot of other antimony projects, for the sole fact, I've been told this by buyers, for the sole fact that we're primarily antimony. You'll see a lot of these other competitors that are popping up. They're gold in antimony, with their primary being gold, or their primary silver in antimony, whatever it may be. From mine and Mac's research out there so far, who we've spoken to, that's not what the buyers are actually after right now. They actually see that as a headache. They are after primary antimony. They are not after stuff that is mixed in with high amounts of gold too, because that just means they got to work on getting it out. Because right now, what buyers are after is easy access to high-grade antimony. That's what they want. And that's another reason XTPT is very attractive. It is a very heavily primary antimony deposit. Versus PPTA, that is primary gold, secondary antimony. Their grades come nowhere close to XTPT so far, just to give you guys an idea. Let me catch up on some questions. So Ryan Johnson, everything to get the cease trade removed from Canada has been put in, brother. So that is on their timeline. Mac told me that like a week ago or two. You can check in with them if you want, but I don't think he can make that move any faster. Everything's been inputted for it. Now it's just about them responding and removing. So hopefully, have you tried it? Try it once in a while. Just because we probably won't know if it comes off. Like we won't. There's not going to be a news release saying, "Hey, the cease trade in Canada is off." So you might have to try it once in a while to see if it works. Yeah, Tyler. I have a hard, me, man. I have a hard, it is going to be easier with Trump in office, I will say. But I've never been bullish on anything Alaskan. Sorry, brother. I have been a NAC shareholder for a very long time, and we all have PTSD from NAC. Good old NAC. It is a beauty, though. If it ever gets approved, it's going to be a home run. Yeah. No, I know what you mean, Tyler. Yeah, we are aware of what's cooking over in Alaska. They are moving pretty fast. But once again, kind of like you, I don't really... In terms of where I see all the competition right now, the stages we're in, XTPT has a hell of a chance of being both the first producer, and that's why I called it the pivot into the spotlight. I think once that road's in, permitted, and the piles are further tested, and they come out hot, they come out good, they come out purchasable, right? And that revenue comes in, I think it's gone. Because then XTPT can go on a huge media stunt and say, no, we're the first domestic producer of this product. Here's the sales to prove it, and here's the PR with the purchaser. That's going to be a home run. That's going to be game changing. PPTA, guys, and this is another reason XTPT is becoming my number 2, right? PPTA just got a $22 price evaluation from H.C. Wainwright. $1.4 billion valuation on an antimony deposit that is producing zero product, zero revenue, and is not foreseeable until 2028, if ever. And you're telling me that deposit is worth $1.4 billion? Meanwhile, XCPT is sitting in 30 millions, and we're We got piles of this shit, high grade, that has been efficiently tested multiple times already, and we're 2 more stages away from selling it, and we're into 30 million, and we're actually going to be selling antimony product soon. I don't get it, and that's the attractiveness of it, right? Yeah, they have a big deposit that's proven out and this and that, but it does not mean anything if it's not producing anything. And I think once XTPT reaches the stage of actually proving out production of product, a lot of that money that is sitting on PPTA is going to shift. It's going to shift. Yes, they will. Once they see that is not the road, once they for sure see that's not the answer, it's going to be a cataclysmic shift. And Mac is smart. He's lining it up for that, right? Because, guys, XTPT, I would wager, is probably 2 months away from SEC reporting audited. That's one of the things he's done right, with BRGC and XTPT. He's already moved it into those stages. So if he really does pull this off in less than 6 months, not only will that be happening, but he'll also be SEC reporting and fully audited. That's like how GWSO was. So if he pulls off this and has the channels open for all that big money to shift out of PPTA or whoever it may be into XTPT, that's going to be able to happen because those steps have already been taken to ensure big money can buy and flow into this stock. So Mac has been smart doing it that way. And he's got, like I told Ryan Johnson or whatever, the cease trade too, that should be off by then. So everything is going to be wide open. Smart shit, while everybody else is being very loud, pumping, doing videos, this and that, 5-10 times a day. Cool, but we're the ones actually we're the ones actually close. We're the ones really close. We got a few steps away. We're the quiet dark horse of the group. Let them all talk. Let them be loud. When we actually are the ones selling the product first, that will be what finally grabs all the attention. Any questions on XTPT, guys? Yeah, I mean, we have been working towards all that. I know that's been worked towards too, MC. You guys should have seen the MindMaker listing. Mac is obviously putting the pieces in place to bring in the number one, the money to complete these next few steps to get us into sales of those piles. But number two, working with MindMaker, they have access to a lot of that stuff. MC and anybody else who's listening, very much big connections to like Critical Minerals Fund and DoD type stuff. That is all being done and explored by Mac and XTPT. The thing is, we know that is, even if perfectly successful, we know that type of funding is probably 2 years out, right? So we're really head down pushing towards the sale of those piles to really self-fund and kick this thing into overdrive way faster than any company or anybody could have ever thought. And we're working close with the family too. The original, and I love it, guys. I love the American history of it. We're working closely with the original family that was a part of the Antimony King, which is good too. It feels good, and it's going to make very similar to SDRC, guys. Like I said, with the Leylands, that's how that all started over there. Was with the old mining family, the Leylands. Very similar. You have good cohesion. It's going to lead to special things. Because this was a very special deposit that was held close to this family's chest for decades. and now XTPT is working to unlock that hidden value that has been there for this whole time, yeah, any other questions? I'll kind of move on to BRGC. Yeah, you gotta actually make an account and stuff to look at it. Arctic Sniper posted it, but it's for it's a big money thing. That's why it's accredited investors and companies can make offers through there and all kinds of stuff. What the point of that listing is, and it's good to look at because it really shows what Mac is trying to accomplish in the short term, which is obviously bringing the money in to get the piles out and this thing drilled and proven up. Very excited. Very, very, very excited for everything happening on XTPT. So any questions, guys, feel free to ask. Once again, we're very lucky to have the piles there, to be honest, to even have the chance to pull something off like this where we don't have to go into mining and years of permitting to mine and all that stuff. We're very lucky. I'll move on to BRGC. Not too much to cover, and a lot of that, guys, is, I'll just be honest, Mac is heavily focused, I think, on XTPT. He really is, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just he knows that we have a short timeline to make this happen. We want to make sure, he wants to make sure that we are the first ones to market. So XTPT is very important right now because just like SDRC, how we're about to make history, XTPT also is right on the cusp of possibly achieving something like that as well. So a lot of his focus is there. I will just be honest. But BRGC, a lot of 2025 and a turning point, I'm going to call the pivot into validation. A lot of cool stuff is happening there. We should be getting the Alexandra research report near term from, I believe it was the University of Houston. That should be cool because I've heard that this report is going to be, I think I might have told you guys before, but BRGC is the only OTC company on the report. They're on there with a bunch of very large lithium companies that are household names, and they're on there with some very reputable geological institutions as well. BRGC is the only OTC lithium project that got asked to participate in this research proposal, and I heard that it went very well. I don't know the results yet. I don't know any of that stuff, but I did hear it went very well. And they want to do apparently even further research and scientific publications possibly on BRGC. Further pointing to, guys, BRGC's quiet, it's beaten down, but this is a very special deposit. I remain incredibly confident in that. We saw it in all the past testing. The massive spodumene deposit. It was presented at huge geological conference, full of experts. That's not something that's shown off, willy-nilly, and as we're going through these other research projects with, third-party universities and stuff, we're further validating that, this thing is really special. And 2025 will be a lot more about figuring out just how special BRGC is. Because only a very small portion of it has been mapped out, assayed to a good enough detail. Like, I want to say just that little small cube that you guys see on the map. 2025 is going to be all 5,000 acres. That's the next big step there. What was done to figure out the trend of the pegmatite and where the gold is with the volcanics on that little small portion of the map, that's going to be the whole map soon in 2025. So hopefully with that, we gain a really strong understanding of where all these pegmatite trends lay, but also what's going on with the volcanics, because the volcanics is what is creating the gold. There is gold on BRGC. It's not just a lithium miner. There's for sure gold. Multiple assays brought it up. We've seen it on XRF. We've seen it on everything. We've seen it with our own naked eyes. It's there. So we're dealing with something that is high grade gold possibly, and also very high grade lithium pegmatite in perfect location, right outside Phoenix. Easy access, easy road to sell product in the future, right near all these battery complexes. And like I've said before, with the gold, it's going to make this lithium project itself much more economically attractive, because most lithium projects do not have anything like this. It's primary lithium, secondary shit like boron, right? They're not producing a lot of things of value outside of lithium. So when lithium takes the shit, it really hurts those companies. I see a lot of value potential with BRGC and being able to hedge lithium up and downs with the gold resource that is possibly going on there. It came, I believe, from the feldspar company that went out of business, Tyler, if I recall. There was a feldspar Chicago company that owned the Midnight Owl, and they were pulling feldspar from it. That's what I believe I recall. Very, very old company from the early 1900s that closed down. They were the ones that had it before. But yeah, any questions, guys? Go ahead and shoot. I don't have too much to talk about on BRGC. I really don't. Nothing. But yeah, that's what a lot of 2025 will be about there, is really validating what we have going on geologically. You know we have something special going on. We have universities telling us that. We have third-party labs telling us that. A lot of experts been presented at geological conferences. Now it's just really about validating, figuring out how we want to go about it. Because it's a very interesting situation we got there with lithium and gold. We want to make sure that however we go about this exploration-wise, that we capture all the value that is out there, that we are very aware and have both the lithium and gold sides nailed down. So yeah, any other questions? I'll move on. Not too much else to talk about. XCPT, even quieter than BRGC. I don't expect much out of there until things with XCPT and BRGC probably proceed forward further. AFFL, if Wild was here, he could probably talk to you guys about that more. He knows more and can talk more about AFFL than I can. I don't know too much about it. You guys see that obviously Steve took majority ownership, National Bureau of Mines. It should be a mining project, but that's all I know at this point. It's very clean. It's going to be all insider owned. There's no debt. Nothing. AFFL is the epitome of, I guess, what we've always wanted as a clean starting point. There's no nasties in the closet, right? It's just us, boys. You know, uh, nothing like a doc or a weird old OTC person that wants to dump. There's nothing like that on AFFL, so that's what's nice about it. It's just a clean shell that's gonna be done right from the start, asset put into it, and we're just gonna build it from there, slow and steady like we always do. Hell yeah, Buffalo, I'm sorry. I like that picture, Arctic. It's very true. Especially in Canada. That's a perfect gift for, or perfect picture for Canadian traders. What else? Anything else, guys? Questions on anything, please ask. I don't have too much else to talk on. Nothing new on the Magnusons, unfortunately. Nothing bad either. It's just they're not. Oh, my kid's getting angry. But yeah, guys, nothing much new on the Magnusons, unfortunately. But like I said, nothing bad either. It's just always it's pulling teeth. It's hard. Every step forward there has to be 100% done by either myself or Rick. Sorry, Wild. You guys know him as Wild. But everything has to happen there by either me or Wild. Like it's not easy. And what I mean by that is even the stuff that they should be doing the 50% on, Wild and I have to go the full 100 to make progress on each step. And the problem is these steps are long and detailed, and there's a lot to them when you're bringing back companies that haven't been current for 20, 30 years, however long it's been. It's a lot of work, and when it's a lot of work, you need the other side to be equally participating, and that's the biggest hurdle with the Magnusons. They are participating, but they're always very slow to participate. It's never a rush with them. It's pulling teeth. But we're never gonna give up on it, and we're gonna keep, each step we're gonna check off, as no matter how slow it takes, we're gonna keep pushing forward on them, because we know what the end game would mean there. We already know there's a lot of value there. It's just about getting them on a road to where the projects can build and progress, and they can kind of sit back and let it happen. That's what I want to see. It's just about getting it to that point, which is not easy. I don't think I'm missing anything else. Anything else, please feel free to ask. If not, I'm going to hop off here, guys and girls, in a couple minutes. Yeah, probably East North. Yeah, we can do that, man. And I'll do an annual. Yeah. I don't know what's up with Vegas. Why y'all want to be in Vegas so bad? Those who want to be in Vegas so bad, my only question is, have y'all been to Vegas? Because it's like Paris. It looks beautiful. But when you go to Paris, it ain't that great. Bro, even when you don't, Shannon, Vegas is gross, dude. It's trashy. It's overpriced. You go there, and it's like, dude, even if you want to make bad decisions in Vegas, you're making bad decisions with gross people. It's all around a lose-lose, Vegas. All around. You're losing your money, your pride, your cleanliness. The Grand Canyon is beautiful. I have been there. That is worth it. And if you are in Vegas, it is not too far. If you actually stay in Vegas, I want to say, somebody in here might know more, but I did it before. I want to say it's like an hour and a half or something. You can actually take a trip. I think it's on the Arizona side of it. Right between the two, I think, is where I went. But there is an area about an hour from Vegas, I think, Max Power, where you can take like a tour of that area of the Grand Canyon. I actually saw the Grand Canyon on one of my trips to Vegas. Yeah, we'll figure out something. I'm not much of a water guy either. Yacht, I don't know. I like to have my feet on land where I can, it's a military thing, I think. I like to have my feet on land. Yeah. Utah is beautiful. I love Utah, man. My red Beryl, I have deep love for Utah. Yep, that's kind of what I did, Coco. I did something similar to that. It wasn't a helicopter, but it was a like small one-engine plane, one of those type things that holds like 10 to 15 people. I did one of those kind of tours of the canyon. It was pretty cool. I don't know if they do that anymore. I heard they don't. Like, because I did that a few years ago, and I heard that's not a thing anymore. I'm not sure if that's true, because I guess it's kind of dangerous, but I don't know. It was badass, man. Now, I do own a property in Breckenridge, Chef. Breckenridge, Colorado. I do own a property up there. All right, everyone. Much love. Thanks for being here as always. Thanks for the support. Amazing times ahead. Any questions or concerns, please always ask. Don't start unnecessary drama when there's people that will just answer the question. And that goes for management too. Like, any questions for Matt or Dan or Sean or Dave, just hit them up and ask them. And if they don't respond, just let me know. Much love, everyone. Have a blessed weekend.
Beryl, let's get it.